This is the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast, your source for the strategies, systems, and insights you need to turn your dreams into your destiny. Every week, we dive into dynamic conversations as our host, Nicole Greer, interviews leadership and business experts. They're here to shed light on practical solutions to the challenges of personal and professional development. Now, here's your host, a professional speaker, coach, and consultant, Nicole Greer.
Welcome, everybody, to the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. My name is Nicole Greer, and they call me the Vibrant Coach, and I am so excited to have not one podcast guest, but two, and their last name is Fukui. I mean, can you guys love that? It's so fun to say it. Fukui, Fukui, Fukui. Let me tell you all about these people. All right, so let me tell you about Robert and Kay Lee. Robert and Kay Lee Fukui have developed the innovative consulting coaching program Power Couples by Design, which equips couples to build a thriving marriage and a prosperous business. So for those of you who are like, I can't work with my wife, I can't work with my wife, these people have figured it out. And so you should work together. You have common goals, we hope. All right. So Robert is the co-founder of I61 Inc. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Oh, I did. Yay. A business consulting network that exists to develop profitable, purpose-led businesses that positively impact people, culture, and economies. Robert received his degree in marketing from San Jose State University and experienced 25 successful years in sales and marketing with companies such as Coca-Cola, Novartis Pharmaceutical, and Bristol Myers Squibb. I'm a Coke person too. I hate to admit it, but played instrumental roles in the launch of 6 major brands and directly responsible for over, don't miss this, 150 million in revenue and a recipient of national sales and leadership awards. So he knows what he's talking about. All right. So Kay Lee is the wife and founder of I61 Inc. and earned her business degree from the University of Laverne, worked in the banking industry for many years and in her family business, which that's a whole thing, right? You got to get the marriage right and then the family right. All the cousins, right? It's a whole thing for the family business. Woo! As operations manager for 10 years before meeting the love of her life. Oh my gosh, so cute. And her passion is to see marriages flourish and the wives understand their identity and powerful role they play in both marriage and business. You guys are awesome. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks,
Thank you, Nicole, for having us.
Yeah.
We're excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And look what they sent me in the mail, everybody. I got a present. Yeah, and so you have this great book, Tandem, cute little bike on it. It says The Married Entrepreneur's Guide for Greater Work-Life Balance. So I think the world needs this book. And look at this, everybody. QR code, end of every chapter, and then they give you the work. Look, it's a 2-for-1. So I think this is fantastic. All right, so first of all, how do you write a book together and run a business together? Kind of give us the big picture. How did you guys figure all this out?
Well, I think first you got to learn how to live together.
Oh, well, that's true. You got to get your underwear up off the floor, toilet seat down, all the things, right?
And I think once you learn how to really communicate in a way you can resolve conflict, resolve issues, because there's always going to be stuff. And I think foundational for us, for our relationship is, this is Kaylee's idea, not mine, but we went to 2 years of counseling before we even got married.
Wow.
In fact, I'd have to say we started going to counseling before we were even really dating.
He was so excited too, you guys.
So since you read the book, you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not going to counseling. We're not even the thing. We've had 4 dates.
That's right. I need a kiss first before I can invest in any of this.
Barely got that first kiss. Yeah, exactly.
That's fantastic. In the book on page 27, you say, if you prioritize your marriage, you can still make a lot of money. But if you prioritize your money, your marriage will suffer. But like in the first little bit of the book, like I put a big circle around that. So was that part of it in the counseling that you all did? That do you two get along together? Can you live together? And then I think a big part of why marriages fail is the money. And a big part of why businesses fail is the money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if the counseling helped us with that money piece. That just really is about how we communicated better and how we can resolve issues. And so certainly money's going to come up.
100%.
And so knowing how to get on the same page, moving forward with a common vision, and how do you treat money, and how do you want to build this life? And I think too, for me, even before I met Kay Lee, my first corporate job was with Coca-Cola. And I remember sitting in the middle of the sales floor at the end of the afternoon and seeing some of the salespeople and executives walking by. And I was like, I was literally just sitting there with a can of Coke and some chips. And I'm just sitting there and I'm literally just watching people walk by. And you got all these high performers, right? And I know some of the backstories of them, and I'm like, okay, they're not happy. They're not happy. They're way overweight. They're very unhealthy. And like, I'm checking off all these negative issues, and we're performing in business or in our corporate career, but yet there's a big aspect of us that really isn't happy, whether you realize it or not. And so that's part of when I started really thinking about, how do I want to live my life? Yes, I want to be successful. I want to make money, but I don't want to lose my soul in the process, right? And so I know some of them were in their third marriages and all that. And so for me, even early on, before I even met Kay Lee, it was like, okay, I wasn't necessarily just driven by money. I wanted to succeed, but I kind of wanted to have that balance even early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk in chapter 2 about balancing marriage with business. So how do you do that? What are your strategies for getting that done?
Our calendar is really important for us. And so a lot of times we will put things on the calendar that we want to do as a couple, as a family, first before we fill it up with all the business stuff. We got the date nights down. We try and do like a quarterly getaway. If Robert's going to be gone for a week or two speaking or in a business meeting somewhere, we'll get on the calendar when he gets back that we'll go do something fun. Otherwise, it's so booked up with business stuff, there's no room for any fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, because every once in a while we'll get asked, how do you fit the family into the business? And I said, well, that's the problem. You're starting with the wrong premise. Is you got to basically deconstruct your life. And starting with Kay Lee was saying, start with your calendar. Let's blank it out. And if the marriage, the family is a priority, then put those things in first, and then you backfill. Because otherwise, we're just going to fill up the calendar. It's so easy to fill up a calendar, right? And so put those priorities in there first, and then protect it. And then that still leaves you a lot of time to build your
100%.
business.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And we've all watched the rom-com movies where the guy's a workaholic and she's mad, like that whole thing. We've seen that repeated over and over again. So get that calendar figured out. So Brian Tracy is right. Get your calendar, get your time management going, eat that frog, right? Do all those things. That's so important. Okay. All right. So your calendar, do you have another kind of idea around balancing marriage and business?
One of the first things we start with for ourselves and with our clients is, okay, what's the vision here? What's the long-term vision? And we're talking about whether it's traveling more, where you're going to live, doing more fun things in the future once you reach a certain pinnacle or you're retired or whatever. And then it's, okay, you got this picture of what you want your life to be. Now, how can we live at least in some form or fashion in the present? You may not have the money to take the trips you want, but you can do a staycation, right? You can still have fun that doesn't take a lot of money. You can do a lot of things that are cheap or free, right? Having fun
100%.
and being connected doesn't have to cost you anything but the time. And so that's a good place to start, is what's the vision and how can we start to live out that even in the present? And then again, go into the calendars. And I think for us, it's kind of your daily habits too, that's how you can find balance. So the first thing you start, and you've heard this, right, is how you start the day really sets the tone. And so starting for a position of kind of peace and rest and not rush into the morning and start checking texts and emails and answering phone calls and all that, start thinking about work, but really having at least that 45 minutes or so to really kind of, for me, it's just quiet time. And then we got prayer, and then we prayed with each other in the morning. So that starts the day. And even if we don't see each other the rest of the day, but that foundation in the beginning and the first thing of the day really sets the tone and keeps us connected, even if we're super uber busy. And so that's just a very practical, simple thing you can do. But it's just amazing how we get so much pushback on just those little things that don't take a lot of time. It's just kind of reframing your mind, because we're so used to just going right away that we feel if we start in that kind of restful state, we're like missing out. Right, they got that FOMO. Like all of a sudden, our business is going to shatter and all that stuff. And I always tell our clients, I said, if your business is going to shatter because you started your morning in rest, then you've got a bigger problem than work-life
100%.
balance.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And so the three things to get the balance is get your calendar right. Okay, we talked about that. But I do love this idea of vision. All the business books say you better have a vision for your company, where you want it to be in 1 year, 3 years, and the big 10-year goal. But we need to do that in our relationships as well. Where do we want to be when we retire? How much money do we have? Are we going to Italy or Australia first, or whatever the deal is? But that also keeps the energy in the relationship. That's why we both work so hard. We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're getting ready for this future we're going to have together. I think
Yeah.
it's so fantastic. And then I don't know if you all know, but one of my big things when I teach about building a vibrant culture is habits, habit work, habits. It's all about the habits that are inside that culture that make it sing
Yep.
or make it not sing. So I love those
Absolutely.
3 things. So fantastic. All right. So the next chapter, you talk about solopreneurs and couplepreneurs. And I love this because you guys are a couplepreneur, but me and my husband, I'm a solopreneur, and he makes my copies for training because he's retired. But he's also like my advisor. Like, I'm in his office, I'm like, how much should I charge for this? And he's there and he's helping me and he's with me. And you have the DISC model. It's on page 48 in your book. DISC is one of the tools that I sell and I train around and all that stuff. Do you guys do that too? Do you do training on the
We
DISC?
don't sell, but yeah, we use the DISC as part of the original first part of the assessment. So we understand like who we're working with and who are they working with.
How to communicate with them.
That's just the communication and work relationship. I think it's a very important piece. So we don't sell it per se, but it's incorporated into what we do.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I think that understanding the personality of the person that you're married to and the people that you work with is essential. You guys must feel the same way.
I think it's important. And I also think it's important for work that you hire people that have different strengths than you. So it's not all the same type. If you're a D, you don't need 5 Ds in your corporation. You would like a little bit of more balance with the different personalities.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, and it's so foundational to help you understand each other. I mean, we know each other, but when you see it on paper about the similarities, but also the differences and where they collide.
Yes.
One is a lot of times we are fighting against our spouse's strengths because they're different, right?
Talk. David, get in here and listen.
like a D. Well, she's an IS. I'm a CS, right? So she's more extroverted. She wants stories and all that, not so much detail. And I'm very detailed and organized. So those 2 things can collide because she's more spontaneous. I'm more the planner. So of course we're going to collide on those things. But when you look in the framework of how do we start to work well together, it helps me and each other frame our expectations about the other person. Mm-hmm. Now, can she plan and all that? Sure. But if there's things that need more detail, like I shouldn't put on her. Like in the book, I had her do QuickBooks when we first started our business. Now, on the DISC profile,
bad and I didn't want to
nobody likes to do QuickBooks.
I know, and including me, even though my profile would suggest between the 2 of us, who should be doing QuickBooks based on our DISC profile? It would be me.
He loves numbers.
A vendor. The answer is a vendor. Go ahead.
Yes. And so, but I didn't want to do QuickBooks. So, of course, I put her in that position because I don't want to do it. And this is part of the Achilles heel for a lot of husband and wife teams. We often put the supporting spouse in a role. It's just what we just don't want to do. And we're too cheap to pay for the help.
Okay. There, right? Finally, the confession, Kay Lee. Too cheap. Oh, sorry.
All right, I told her. She knew that.
Yeah.
So,
then we were in a vicious circle because then he would be like, honey, did you get the QuickBooks done? And I keep putting it off because I don't like doing it. And then one day I'd finally get in there to do it. And then I'm like, oh, I did it. He's going to be so proud and happy for me. And, it's done. And then he comes in, honey, this is not right. And mind you, I'm like creative. I think in colors, you know what I mean?
Right, not black and white boxes.
Yeah, he's like, it's got to be exact. There's no wiggle room here. And then I get triggered because I think he doesn't appreciate me. He gets triggered because I'm upset and I say something to him and it's just a hot mess.
That's exactly right.
So learning your own gifts and your spouse's gifts and then figure out who should do what, but also don't be cheap to just hire out because it's so much better. One, like in this case, it's going to get done better and faster and accurate, and it keeps the peace. And we both get to do what we enjoy in the business and not get bogged down with the stuff we don't enjoy, but we need to do, or it needs to be done, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done by me or her or either one of us. And so kind of understanding that, I think, really sets the tone. And again, it helps you avoid some conflict, like in this case, or helps you at least resolve it when we start to realize, hey, maybe I'm asking her something that really I should have been asking to begin with. And then
Right.
also, how do we communicate? We communicate differently. I, as the storyteller, I'm just facts and figures. And so those two ways of communicating can also collide, but we also got to appreciate how do we present things to each other in a way that they can accept it. Right?
Because I have a feeling about things, and he's like, okay, where's the facts and numbers? You know what I mean?
And I'll tell you, those feelings sometimes is called intuition, and buddy, they are dead on.
Yep.
So we got to pay attention to both, right? Facts, figures, and feelings, they all matter.
Yep, I know. So I had experience in that, right? And a couple of financial decisions that
and she told you so.
Yeah, she didn't have a good feeling about it, but I did all the research, and so I went ahead and did it, and of course it backfired. And after the second one, especially when it costs you a lot of money, like it's painful. And 100%. So you tend to not forget that, and you go, you know what? Maybe I should listen to her feelings a little bit more.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and not to leave any of you in the dust on the DISC. So just real quick, there's 4 quadrants. All of these personality profiles that are out there, they basically have 4 quadrants. They're all labeled something different. But D, it stands for dominance, but I wish they would change that. It should be called driver, because dominance sounds ugly. But these are the people who drive and they want to get stuff done. Let's rock and roll. Let's make it happen. Then the I, which is Kay Lee and myself. Girl, we should hang out. So we are the influencers. We want to shake things up and impact people and make change happen and everybody to be happy and have a good time. Then you have the S, which is so cool. And the reason why I highlight this is because he said, I'm a CS and she's an IS. So see, they have that S in common for stability or support. So isn't that lovely, right? When a couple they both have an innate desire to support each other. So that's lovely. And then you have the C, which is conscientious, which he's saying facts and figures, but he's also like ABC, 1, 2, 3, check the box. Here's my to-do list, all these things. Now, here's the thing about that model that I just want to say real quick, and then we'll move on because we're talking about Tandem. Okay. We're talking about Tandem today, but you can go anywhere you want on that model once you have the consciousness of what a D does and I does. Like there are times when Kay Lee sat there and did the dang QuickBooks. She was a C for 2 hours in front of the computer.
Or more.
Or 12, or whatever it was. But the thing is that you can tilt. And I think that maybe I don't recall reading this in the book because I've had it for several weeks now. Thank you. But like having like emotional intelligence is part of this too, right? Like people without emotional intelligence don't stay married. That's what I know.
Yeah, for sure. And also over time, you start to drift a little bit into each other's lanes.
You do.
And so like when we did our road trip to promote the book a couple of years ago, I planned because we need to know where we're going.
Right. And he's a student. Don't miss that.
But I also knew to leave room for spontaneity. One, because we wanted to use it as an excuse to see the country too. It wasn't just
of course.
Work. And there's national parks and things we want to hit. So we had scheduled events, but then we also made sure we had margin in where we're staying or where we're going to be spontaneous. And sometimes it's spontaneous to do something fun, but sometimes it's spontaneous because people introduce this to people. And but if you fill your calendar, right, you pack it in, then you really don't have those opportunities that, are going to pass you by. And so I remember when as I was mapping out the trip, Kay Lee asked me, so what's the plan? What are we trying to accomplish here? I mean, she went into like CD mode or something like that.
Because I'm used to being around you, honey.
And
That's right. She was like, if I don't ask, I won't be prepared because he will.
And then I said, as long as we have fun, that would be the main goal. And she's like, fun? That's it? And I'm looking at her like, you're all about fun. I thought you'd be happy.
It's so nice because you guys have the S in common. So me and David Greer, I'm an I and he's a C, and we both have D in common.
Oh boy.
So we have to intentionally tilt over to S. You know what I mean? Like and that's what we fill our calendar with. Like, when are we going to sit down and talk? Because if left to our own devices, he's over there making 700 things happen, and I'm over here making 700 things happen, and we're both exhausted and fall into bed. So knowing how your letters line up or using any of the other tools, I think is a big part of saving your marriage. And you need to do, if you're the CEO, you need to be doing that with your VP of sales and your VP of this and your VP of that. So valuable. All right. Enough about that. This is about Tandem. It is a book called The Married Entrepreneur's Guide to the Greater Work-Life Balance. So we're going to move on. All right. So you have a chapter called Get on the Same Page. And I love the name of the chapter because that's something my dad would say. Can we all get on the same page? he had a musical ice skating dancing background, and so it was all about getting on the same page of music. That's where that comes from. So will you
Yep.
talk a little bit about how do we get on the same page at work and in our marriage?
I think it starts what I said earlier is the vision part. That's where it starts, because you have to have something that you're anchored to, you kind of your North Star of where you're headed. And then in the process of that, so there's the vision and the map of where you're headed.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the process, how do you maintain staying on the same page? I think that's the big thing. And our weekly meetings are that way of staying on the same page. And most marriages, and even before we started doing the weekly meetings, it's almost like you're two ships passing night. You'll talk about stuff, but in passing, or as you're walking out the door, or you're about to make dinner or something, it's just, you just fit those things in and you're just blurting stuff out at each other. And then inevitably things fall through the cracks, right? Because either she's talking to me when I'm in the middle of something, so I'm not really listening.
What?
I'm acknowledging.
That was very good, Kay Lee. Very
I'm
good.
acknowledging,
She
but
has
I'm not really
timing
listening.
too. Eyes have
Yes,
timing.
she does. Yes, exactly. And so the weekly meetings helps us stay on the same page, right?
And I want to say vision too, because we have a vision for our business, what that's going to look like. And then we have a vision for our family.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times it's nice having the vision for your family, because you can talk about that stuff outside of work, because you don't always want to be talking about work. And when you come with your two different ideas and thoughts, you can make even better vision than just the one. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Let's do that. That's a great idea. And then that gives you something to look forward to.
So
Yeah.
our weekly meetings kind of start with kind of an encouraging word of each other, because again, going back to knowing my personality, is I don't encourage her like I should. Right?
No, he wants to give you your to-do list for the day.
We got stuff to do. So I have to have those reminders. So we start with an encouraging word for each other, and then we go through our calendars, and then we go through whatever the personal things we need to do. You know, we're going on Hawaii next month, and then in May for her birthday, her big birthday, we're going to Italy. You said Italy
Stop!
earlier.
I want to go so bad. I'm doing the Duolingo Italy. Are you doing the
Oh, are you?
Duolingo Italy? Oh,
No.
I should probably do that. We got
gotta
time.
do it. Anyway, go ahead. I'm jealous.
Yeah, and then we go into the business stuff, any projects, and then the business stuff, client issues, whatever, and then wrap it up with how do we support you? How do we support each other?
Talk about our finances. If Robert's going to be traveling for a week or two, then we're like, okay, then where are we? I don't like to be caught off guard with that kind of stuff. I like to know ahead of time, as
Right.
opposed to, oh, tomorrow I'm leaving. I'm going to be gone for a week. You know what I mean? So the expectations, oh, then when he gets back, we'll plan a date night or go do something fun.
Yeah. And you're talking about money. I don't want to get past that, because on page 75, I have in here helping spenders and savers find common ground. I was like, oh, this is about David and I.
Because we usually marry somebody opposite of us, right?
That's right, because the fun one needs money. We need cash to have dinner.
Well, the interesting thing about that is actually I would be more of the spender.
Okay.
And
Wow.
she's the saver. And I think a lot of that isn't so much personality type, but how we grew up.
Yeah, how we were raised.
Okay, I can get behind that.
And so but she liked it when we were dating, because I was
spending all the time,
whining and dining. But then when we get married, let's get on a budget. I go, budget.
Right. We're going to go to a 5-star tonight, babe. I love you.
Yeah. So that was part of the counseling helped the conflict issue, and getting finances obviously is the number one hot topic in a marriage. And so we have to work through that and get on a budget, and me learning how to have fun without spending a ton of money. Right. And be prepared for the future, start investing it more, and those kind of things, putting our money to use more than just spending it away. So we have a balance even with that. We have a budget to spend. Like I said, we're going on vacations. That's not like we don't have fun. It's just during the week or during the year, you kind of save a little bit more, right? So you can do those vacations and just do things that are a little bit cheaper. Like even I remember the first few Christmases, we had a $50 budget for Christmas on each other, and just get as creative as you can. And we had different stocking stuffers and all these little gifts, and just had fun, because at the end of the day, like we didn't need more stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've
really,
got a whole house full of stuff.
like how much stuff do you really need, right? And
That's
so
right. The only thing she doesn't have is a trip to Italy, and that's coming, Kay. Hang in there. Kay Lee, hang
yeah,
in there.
yeah,
And
That's
then I had
fantastic.
to learn to be a little bit more like loosen up with the purse strings as well. Okay, this is our budget, so it's okay to go ahead and spend it.
yeah. So I think it's what's important to learn is how can both spouses get what they need? Because the saver wants security. Okay, how do we
Right.
make sure we're going to have enough, right? And then the spender obviously wants to have fun, and it's there's that kind of like that, what do you call it, that kind of that hormonal kick when you spend some money and all that. So but it's not usually about how much you're spending, right? And so just reframing ourselves, and you need both, right? You need to save, save, but you also want to have fun, because that otherwise would be boring. And so how do we just come to that balance of give each person feeling what they have, the security, but also having fun?
Yeah. And dare I say this, but I think if you think about other partners, they could be married, or they could be two gentlemen that go into business, or two ladies, or whatever combination,
Mhm.
and they go into business together. I think that happens too. There's one saver and one spender.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
One that's like, let's wine and dine the clients, and the other one's like, we don't really need to do that. Just send them the proposal.
yeah,
I think that is always going to be one of the points of contention in any partnership, business,
hmm,
marriage, whatever it
yep,
is. So
hmm.
that's fantastic to point out. Okay, so let's get to chapter 7. And don't forget, everybody, when you get the book, you get the QR code, you get the downloadable workbook, which is sitting right here. Okay, so you got to get that filled out. That'll help you. Listen, don't buy
You're
books and not read them. You got to read
you're
them, and you got to
you're,
do the
you're
work.
better. I gotta say, Nicole, you're better than QVC.
Am I better? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're better than QVC.
QVC,
Hey,
call
look
me.
at
I'm
this.
ready for
Look
my
at
own
this. Look at
show.
this. Exactly.
I'm ready. I'm ready for my own show. And we could be all about books. If you could see my office, books, 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 everywhere books. I love books so much.
Are you ready to build your vibrant culture? Bring Nicole Greer to speak to your leadership team, conference, or organization to help them with their strategies, systems, and smarts to increase clarity, accountability, energy, and results. Your organization will get lit from within. Email her at nicole@vibrantculture.com, and be sure to check out Nicole's TEDx talk at vibrantculture.com.
All right. So chapter 7, increase your money margin, is this book. And so all my business folks that are listening, they're always up for a nugget on how can we make more money? How can we focus on profits, not revenue? And why would we want to focus on profits, not revenue? So there's a little business acumen coming your way, courtesy of these two. So tell us about that.
Part of the work-life imbalance with these entrepreneurs is they're working so hard, they're chasing sales, right? Sales is the answer. But if you don't have healthy margins, you may not even make the profits you're trying to get. And so we always have sales goals, but we don't have profit goals.
Mm-hmm.
And which is more important, right? It's
You
how
need
much is left
profit.
over. How much is left over is more important. That's assuming everything's paid off, including the owner's salary. And so revenue and profits don't necessarily go hand in hand, right? Revenue can go up and profits can actually go down. We've had clients like that. And we've actually had cases where, because we increased the margin so much, that the sales revenue went down like 60%, but the profits went up by 200. And so it's really about, don't chase volume and sales, chase margin. So how do you get more margin? So there's only 3 ways. So it's either increase price, reduce costs, or the combination of the two. Those are your 3 ways to increase margin. So when you start looking at your business before you look at just sales, because in the beginning of my consulting career, that's what people were hiring me for marketing help. And as I started looking at their P&L, the profit and loss statements, I'm looking at this thing going, man, you're operating on really thin margins, which is forcing you to work on volume. Is that what if we get healthier margins so you don't have to work in as much volume, and you'll have you and your staff can be more at peace as you're working. You're not just cranking it out. And the quality of your service actually goes up because you're not just churning it out and saying, whether you're a coach or you have retail or restaurant, whatever, when you have more margin, you're able to spend more time with the customer and be able to serve them better, right? So the first thing I look at was, if you look at the profit and loss statement, sales and then expenses and then profits, the first thing I look at is price. And so the majority of, at least from our experience, the majority of small family business, they're just underpriced because we're afraid of losing customers. We set our price a little bit lower to try and attract more volume. all it's doing is you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because now you're dropping your margins and now you have to work on a lot of volume.
Mm-hmm.
And on the cost saving basis, it's not just about cost cutting, it's about how do you increase productivity? How do you increase the output of what you're spending? So if you're spending money on marketing, for example, and you're doing digital ads, there's a cost per click, like when you're doing Google ads or Facebook ads and stuff like that. So what if we increase our clicks per dollar that we're spending in advertising, right? So that means we're getting more traffic into our website for the same dollar that we're spending in ads. And then once they get into the website, how do we increase our on-site sales conversion? And then that, again, we're not spending more money, but we're getting more sales just because of that. So we discount some of the little numbers. Like one of our clients, they had a 0.8% sales conversion rate on the website. I said, what if we increase it to 1.2, which is a little bit more appropriate anyway for e-commerce? That's a 50% increase in sales.
Which is huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't sound good, 0.8% to 1.2, but when you break it down percentage-wise, the same dollar you're spending in ad spend, you're also increasing your sales by 50%. So looking at how do you increase the output for the money you're investing in the business is going to be huge. So that kind of reduces costs in a sense, right? And then at the end of the day, you should have better margins. And so it's not usually one thing, not just price, although sometimes it has been, but sometimes the combination of price and costs will get you to the margins you want. And for those listening, if you want just at least a rule of thumb, you want at least a 15 to 20% net profit after everything's paid, including the owner's salary. If you have 15 to 20% net, then you have a healthy margin to be able to continue to reinvest into the business, to hire the people you need, the software, the upgrades, whatever. And that'll help you build a healthier business that will in turn serve the client better, which in turn increases the value of what you're offering, which may allow you to maybe even increase the price. Or if you're investing into certain software equipment that makes you more efficient, you may bring your cost down so much that you can actually lower your sales price. And so there's so many benefits, right, of just increasing margin, and that'll help you be able to just build a better business.
Yeah. And he just laid down a ton of business acumen. And one thing that I will say to those who are listening, if you're in business, you need some business acumen. A lot of times we have a very distinct degree or a certain kind of experience, but you need to know the numbers. That's the other thing. It's like Kay Lee needs to know the numbers, and she does. She did the QuickBooks, everybody. And you do have to know how to sell and market. And one of the things I'm always teaching, I don't know if y'all agree, but I'm a big cross-training person. If somebody is the maintenance guy, get him out here face-to-face with the customers that are checking into the hotel or whatever the scenario is. The minute we understand how the whole business works, and I'm also a big fan of open book management. If everybody understands how much revenue we have and what the expenses are, and we reward people for making the P&L sing.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to get everybody up to speed on business. So I love what you're saying. So good.
I got a funny story, cute story about the maintenance guy. There's a hotel we used to stay at when I was in pharmaceutical sales. There's a place up in Pismo Beach we'd stay at with Kay Lee's coming with me. And there's this maintenance guy, and he's just going around fixing the pool or just in a heater or whatever. But he was like, it seemed like he was like customer service. Like he got to know us. And I remember one time we just checked in. Like I'm in the room, I'm putting my bags away, I knock on the door, and I forgot his name. But great guy, it was years ago. But anyways, open the door and it's him. And he says, hey, thanks, hey, welcome back. He says, gives me a bottle of wine. And I'm like,
I love it.
Amazing. And then one time we're up on the terrace and we had dinner, because of a sunset dinner over the ocean, and there's a fire,
California
fire
people.
Pit.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes around, this is at night, he comes around, he looks at Kay Lee, he's like, do you need a blanket? And she's like, yes.
So sweet. It's
he comes back with a blanket.
Because she's so petite. She was freezing.
No, but this guy was just amazing. I'm like, this dude's amazing.
Yeah.
And it made you want to come back. And he wasn't technically concierge or anything. He was the maintenance guy. He was dressed in his maintenance gear, but he just was always looking out for people. And he remembered us. And yeah, he was awesome. I loved him.
Some good training going on in that hotel.
I wanted to circle back around about knowing your numbers as well, because how many times like a favorite product or a restaurant or something went out of business and we would have been willing to pay more. It charged us more just so we could have that product or that restaurant or that service. And we're like, oh my gosh, I remember there was a restaurant we really liked, and we would look at the prices and we're like, oh my gosh, this is like really inexpensive. And we were a little concerned. And like months later, they went out of business. We would have been willing to pay more because we want them to stay in business, especially small business. We need
100%.
to help out our communities. They're the backbone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just remember looking at the prices like, this is pretty cheap. I wonder how they're doing it, but they must know what they're doing.
And
But sure
they
enough,
didn't.
unfortunately, like they went out of business. I'm like, darn, too bad.
Yeah.
They should have
Yeah.
talked to me.
Oh, that's so good too. Okay. All right. Well, I want to go to chapter 8. I'm checking our time here. I want to go to chapter 8 because we could tell if y'all look at the book. Here's the book. I'm going to do it one more time. This is my CBS moment. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Tandem, the married entrepreneur's guide for greater work and life balance. But you know what? Even if you're not married yet, again, lots of business acumen in here and lots of good habits. All right. Chapter 8 is increase your time margin. Now, we talked about the calendar, but it says you can't create more time, but you can create more margin. So I had put a sticky note in there. I was just like, that is an absolute truth. And there aren't many in this life, but that is an absolute truth. You have a quote from Nathan Morris. It's not always that we need to do more, but that we need to focus on less. Oh, that is so good. Will you talk about that one? What do you mean by it? Why did you quote Nathan?
I forgot how I picked his quote, but anyways, it sounded good. I was probably
really good.
Resonated.
I was probably searching for quotes on time. I'm like, ooh, that one's good. That's perfect.
I think the scary thing is like if you have two people running a business, they're like, you know what we could do? We could do that. Okay, do it. We could do that. Okay, do it. And then before you know it, you're doing 18 things very mediocre.
Mediocre.
That's I'm so glad you're here. Yes, mediocre. And instead of doing like the 3 things that's you kill it on, that you absolutely are good at. I think that's part of what Nathan is trying to say.
Yeah, we don't value our time the way we should. It is not a renewable source.
Right.
But we treat it as though it is, right? Because once it's done, it's done. Once this hour is up, we don't get it back, as they say. So we tend to, even like the calendar situation, we just tend to fill up our calendars and our to-do lists, and we just build and build and build. We can't say no. And inevitably, we are doing way too many things that are outside of our sweet spot, our zone of genius, as Gay Hendricks would say in his book, Zone of Genius. And so most business owners are spending about 60% of their time in the business activity, that kind of the busy work, invoicing, checking calendars, customer service issues, whatever, things that need to be done, but probably shouldn't be necessarily done by the business owner. And only about 30% of their time on the business activities are more the high level, what's casting vision, maybe doing some research and development, writing maybe content or books if you're a coach or consultant or whatever. Some of the stuff that's going to, that you invest into the business, that's going to drive the business forward long term, not just taking care of the day to day. So we get too caught up in the day to day because it's something we can check off our to-do lists right away, versus on the business activities are more those long-term activities that don't provide immediate turn, but it's the long-term benefit. And so you said 3. So we would look at what are the 2 to 3 things that are in your zone of genius. So activities that you're really good at, but also gives you life.
Yes.
Right? And so when you're doing majority of their time on that, your business is going to sing. And so with the rest of the stuff, right, how do you automate, delegate, or eliminate some of those other things that are in the business activities that you probably should be doing?
Because so many business owners, we aren't doing what we love. We're not doing our zone of genius. We're doing everything but that. And we're not able to grow our business and come up with the innovative ideas. And
so that's the first question we ask is, what are the things you really enjoy in the business, and how much time are you be able to do that week to week? And the statistics hold true. It's about 30% of their time only 30% of time is in those areas that they really enjoy. And so we have to figure out, how do we get it around? There's tons of automation tools now. And then now with virtual assistants, now you can get a virtual assistant for pretty much any job description. And the first thing we look at is, let's get 5 to 10 hours back by just hiring an assistant for the busy work. Right?
And you don't even have to have a system full time.
Right. You can Upwork it. You can do all the things. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then things that you have to just say no to,
yeah,
which is the hard part, is what do you need to say no to?
We find ourselves volunteering for things just because somebody asked us and we don't want to say no. And it's not something we even enjoy or we're good at. It just, they need someone to do it. And so you're like, oh, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's a gentleman, hold on, I'm having a moment. Dan Sullivan, there he came. And he's got a company called Strategic Coach that I go to. Every coach should have a coach, or they're a big Hypocrite. So I go see Dan, and he talks about your unique ability, and he's got a whole book on your unique ability that will help you, all you entrepreneurs out there, and CEOs, and all. Even if you're not owning the company, you should read that book. All right, we got 2 chapters left and just a few minutes, but I don't want to skip anything. So the one chapter, chapter 9, talks about stop swinging for the fences, because you don't have to make a home run. You just have to get on base, right? And that is not a marriage analogy. Or is it? It's a dating analogy. Okay, I'm just saying. Kay Lee was a good girl. I'm just saying. Okay, all right, go ahead. Why should we stop swinging for the fences? Talk to us about that.
I've fallen to this myself, but a lot of entrepreneurs are looking for that home run thing that's going to propel their business forward.
Yeah.
Right. That one video that's going to go viral, or that one big sales contract or whatever. So we're looking for that one big thing. That's, you're swinging for the fences, versus making the series of small changes, because every business has room for improvement. So if we just improve what we're already doing, the money is going to flow. Right. So I talked earlier about just margin and time, and then increasing performance. So we have to look at the metrics, or the key performance indicators, right? Those KPIs, things that we don't tend to look at, because quite frankly, when you look at a DISC profile, most entrepreneurs aren't C's, or they don't have a high degree of C, right? They're more
No,
D
got a
to
lot of
I.
DI in the entrepreneur category.
Maybe some S, right? So that's the predominant in the DISC profile. So I'm a unicorn because I'm a CS.
You are quite bizarre, but it's okay.
Exactly.
Kay Lee loves you, and I do too.
Somebody's got to be there for the organization, right? So we help them just develop some key, just simple metrics to measure. And so one of our clients that was hemorrhaging $800,000 a year, actually they lost up to 1.5 one year before they hired us. And so,
oh God, just in time.
How we turned it around in 1 year was literally the metrics. I said, okay, let's line up all the data
and stuff nobody wants to do,
from your profit margins, to team activity, and then look at the metrics, all the marketing metrics and all that, and just say, okay, how do we improve X percentage in these different areas, from click-throughs to open rates to even how units shipped per person, because they're at a warehouse and they're shipping stuff out. So investing into better POS and inventory control systems, so they weren't walking all over the warehouse all the time and wasting time, but how to be more efficient when they're picking up orders.
Right,
and
little
so
5S in there.
Yeah, so that'll increase their units shipped per person kind of thing, right? So looking at all these different metrics and say, if we just improve in all these different areas, even if we don't hit 100% improvement in all the different areas, but we're going to improve, right? We're going to improve, and including bottom line. And so I didn't have them set profit goals, but they set sales goals, because they're saying sales, we need more sales. I said, no, you need more profits. So they're doing $5 million a year revenue. I said, look, you're already doing $5 million a year in revenue. If you can't turn a profit at $5 million in sales, then something's wrong, right?
Right.
So,
bad systems, a lot of time.
They were performing, they were making improvements, and then end of the year, I sit down with the CFO, and he says, oh, we've surpassed our profit goals. So awesome. That's amazing. But he still had this somber look. And I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, well, team was a little disappointed because we missed our sales goals. And I'm like, so?
Right.
Did everybody get paid?
And that's part of the culture, right? Yeah. It's like we have to change the way they think. We got to get them lit in a different way, thinking in a different way.
So I said, did all the bills get paid? Yes. Did you get paid? Yes. Were bonuses issued? Yes. Did I miss anything? No. But we have more money in the bank? Yes.
We're profitable.
So again, so what? So I said, go back to your team and pump them up, because you did great, right? You went from losing $800,000 last year to squeezing out a 5% net in a year.
That's
a huge turnaround.
Big turnaround.
So I said, congratulations, and go buy them some pizza or something, do something fun.
That's right. That's right. And don't miss that these two help them do it. That's the thing. So don't miss that, everybody. All right. Last chapter, stay focused. So bring us home, stay focused. Make sure you and your spouse are clear on the big picture. So this vision casting, this will be the 3rd time we talked about it, but you need a vision, people. So the 3rd time we're going to talk about it. So you devise it, you write it down on day 1 or day 101, but what do you have to do with the vision?
You got to execute. So
pay attention to it and keep working on it.
I want to say, like, what's the percentage of people that look at their goals that they actually, their vision, that it actually comes to
Whoa.
fruition? Do you remember what that is, honey?
Well, I think what you're referring to is like the people who write down their plan or vision and check it
Right.
frequently earn 7x over in their lifetime over those that don't. So writing the vision, coming up with the vision, writing down is not enough. You got to keep checking on it. And so that alluding to our weekly meeting. That's why the vision and the weekly meetings go hand in hand in order for you to accomplish it. And also know that the path to the end goals isn't going to be straight. And you've got to be flexible enough to adjust or pivot. 2020 was a huge pivot, right? There's always moments in a business life cycle that you're going to have to make some changes. One that was unplanned, right? Because there's always going to be something when you do, like say when you're doing SWOT analysis, right? Those threats, those are things that are outside of your control. So there's always going to be things outside of your control that are going to force you to pivot, and you don't want to stay stuck because this is the way you've done it, right? One of our first consulting clients was a business that was in business for 40 years, and they kept talking about that. They're celebrating a 40-year anniversary, and their business is going down, right? And so every new marketing plan or suggestion we're talking about, they just shot it down.
We tried that in 1973.
Or, it won't work. That's not how we do it. Even something as simple as having voicemail.
Oh, Lord.
They would not put on. Yeah. So I'm just like, okay, one after another, they're just shooting it down. And I was like, look, you got to change, right? Because
something's got to change.
You keep talking about how you do things and what works, what doesn't work, yet clearly what you're doing is not working.
Right. They're thinking that's the way we've always done it. It's worked this far. Well, it's not going to work for another 40 years. We guarantee it.
So don't stay so stuck and married with the idea. You've got to be flexible enough to know that you need to change. And so you got the vision. It doesn't necessarily change the vision. Like the vision, your lifestyle and all that stuff and how it's going to be, but the path to get there may not be that straight linear path. And so you just have to be flexible enough to do that. But I think the constant check-ins to talk about those things is very important.
Well, and I think too, like having the vision in front of you. So when you go to make decisions, we'll get our vision in front of us and say like, okay, is this part of our vision or is this totally getting us off track? Because it's so easily like, how did we end up over here? Like, you know what I mean? We were supposed to be way over in the other direction. So that will be like, okay, that's not really the game plan of where we're wanting to go. We love this idea and it's fun, but maybe, maybe another time, not right now, because we need to stay focused.
Or even the opposite, where it feels like you're moving in a direction that's going to take you off your long-term vision. But if you look at it and say, oh, I think there's still a path back, right? So I think that's that true north that helps you keep anchored and help you make decisions is what we're doing. Is this pivot appropriate or not?
Yeah. And what you're talking about, I think is so interesting. And I do have a little story I'll add to what you're saying. I had a gentleman, they had a CPA firm, and the husband and the wife were both CPAs. And the wife was in the business and loved doing accounting for 25 years. Well, then she was exposed to this thing called coaching. And because she got herself a coach and she's like, oh my gosh, I think this is what I want to do with my life. And so it could have disrupted the whole firm because he could have been like, no, we've put 25 years into this thing. And he could have forced or whatever, been upset. But like what they did is they sat down and said, okay, let's make a vision to get you out of here. Mm-hmm. And they did. And so they found somebody, they trained him up, taught him everything Donna knew how to do. And Donna has a thriving, amazing coaching practice today. So I think it's the check-ins and the timing. But get back to the very first thing, people, the calendar.
Calendar's amazing.
Yeah. That's one of our big secrets, the calendar.
To control your calendar, don't let the calendar control you, right?
100%. All right. How do we find you people? We have problems. We need you. How do we find you? How do we get a hold of you immediately?
marriedentrepreneur.co is our website. And then we also are thriving in Tandem. Oh, give him that one. My detailed husband, sorry, switched it up on me.
So we have a specific landing page for your audience, right? marriedentrepreneur.co/vibrant culture.
Oh, nice.
So if you go to that, it's a specific landing page. And then if you do want to just chat with us, there's our discovery call button right there. Or we have the book, Thriving in Tandem. And also, if you really don't want to spend the $20, there's a free gift, the Work-Life Balance Guide that you can download for free.
Yes.
So. But yeah, if you get
Yeah.
the book is it's a book, it's a course, it's a
It's all the things, people. Yeah,
yeah.
visit our website, listen to our podcast, schedule a discovery call, or email us. It's all in this. So invest the dollars, right, in the book. That's what you have to do. See if you like it. If you listen
Yeah.
to this and you like it, you'll like it. All right, everybody. This has been another episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. So if you're married or not married, this is the place you need to be to learn to get people lit from within, help your employees shine, help yourself be an amazing, vibrant leader. I'm so grateful to you two. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Nicole.
Nicole.
This was great.
This
This was
was
a lot
great.
of fun.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Build a Vibrant Culture podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us improve and reach more like-minded listeners. Remember, the journey to building a vibrant culture never stops. Stay inspired, keep nurturing your vibrant culture, and we can't wait to reconnect with you on the next exciting episode of Build a Vibrant Culture podcast.